Well, over the time that you were prosecuting people, there was a lot of situations, like, for example, Joseph Massino, who was convicted of ordering 8 different murders, and he ultimately got out. Sammy the Bull, you weren't directly involved in this case, I don't think, but he admitted to 19 murders, did some time served, and ultimately got out. Do you feel in the big picture that it's justified for essentially mass murderers to cooperate and then walk free?
I in preparation for this interview, I went on YouTube last night and I was reviewing many of your interviews with turnaround guys, with people in the street. They call them rats, with cooperators, and many of these people make no bones about the fact that they were involved in hits. They identify themselves. They brag about being hitmen, and I'm scratching my head. I'm saying, how is this possible? Why isn't the local district attorney looking at these cases? There's no statute of limitations for murder unless they got some sort of immunity deal. And I'm not, some of these people I'm not familiar with because I haven't worked in the government now since 1989. So I don't know who some of the people you interviewed were and what their deals were. But these people are writing books and they're appearing on television talking about the fact that they killed people and identifying people they killed. And I don't know, I just don't know how that's possible. Sammy the Bull did about 5 years in prison, and then he got out, and then he became an ecstasy dealer, and I don't know all the details, but he didn't go to jail very long after he was started to sell ecstasy. I don't know. It just it strikes me. Look, I can be criticized. I mean, I gave a sweet deal to Henry Hill. I gave a sweet deal to some other people. I put in the witness protection program. I used as cooperating witnesses. Yeah, in hindsight, I go in my book, and I have 2 follow-up books. I admit that I was somewhat lenient with these people, and I'm critical of myself for giving too cushy of deals to these guys. And so I look back on it. I think that Sammy the Bull certainly came out. He came out really well at the end of the day. I used to say that if I were was running the Gotti case back in 1990, that I never would have made a deal with Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull did not convict John Gotti. John Gotti convicted himself in his own words on the wiretaps, on the bugs at the Ravenite Social Club, in the apartment over the social club, where he shot his mouth off about the murders that he was ordering and the murders that he had ordered and what he was going to. And so he cooked his own goose. Sammy cooperated because he listened to those same tapes, and he was talking about working with Gotti in connection with those murders. He knew he had no choice. So they didn't need Sammy the Bull. I felt that using Sammy the Bull it was a red herring in the case, and it gave ammunition to the defense to come up with an argument that they were relying on Sammy the Bull, when in fact they didn't have to rely on Sammy the Bull. And I was critical of my sort of successors in the war against organized crime in Brooklyn. And as time has gone on, I've changed my view on it, because really what transpired was that Sammy was not only successful in cooperating against Gotti, but he also was instrumental in arranging for the conviction, or contributing to the convictions of many, many significant members of the Gambino family. So in the long run, he was a very valuable witness for the government. I don't know whether at the end of the day he should have done 4 or 5 years in prison, many of which were probably spent at a condo somewhere in a suburb of some city in the United States. So he certainly came out well at the end of the whole ordeal.